So what are the symptoms of anxiety? Well, you don't really need me to tell you that. You'll probably know them well enough already. But basically what's happening is one part of your nervous system, called the sympathetic nervous system, has been massively switched on by all sorts of things. It can be an event that's going on in your life, or something you just keep on thinking about in your head. It can be many things. But basically once that gets switched on, you suddenly start to get enormous physiological changes all over in your body. So you can get a higher heart rate, pulse rate, you can feel hot, you can feel cold, it can affect your blood pressure, so that will change the way the oxygen moves through your brain and change the way you think and the way you react to things. It can make you be trembly or tremors, it can make you sweat, it can change your digestion, it can change just about any part of your body, because the sympathetic nervous system is kind of linked into every bit of your body. It's actually designed, the sympathetic nervous system, fundamentally to do what's called the flight or fight response, which is when a wild animal appears, our body needs to get ready to deal with it. The problem we have, of course, nowadays is the kind of things that stress us don't tend to be wild animals. They tend to be bad phone calls, threatening letters, unpleasant people, or something else just inside our head. These are the things that tend to stress us. And the other difference is that if we're approached by a wild animal, then that is usually resolved relatively quickly. Either we get away from it, unfortunately we might be eaten by it, but the event is fairly quickly resolved. The stresses that we tend to be under in our lives tend to last a lot longer, and that's really where we get into trouble. Stimulation of this particular part of our nervous system is really designed for very short-term bursts. We keep on stimulating it all the time, then we get into physiological problems. There's the cycle of stress, which is where something happens, whether it's an external event or just how we feel or how we're thinking, which then switches on this system, the sympathetic nervous system, which then makes massive changes throughout our body and our hormonal systems. When this happens, we start to get the symptoms of anxiety, which we've already discussed. Of course, the problem is when you get the symptoms of anxiety, that makes you feel funny, makes you feel weird. That in turn can make you stressed. So we have the stress producing symptoms, and the symptoms producing stress, which produce more symptoms. And the more you feel that you're out of control and not feeling normal and feeling weird, the more stressed you get. Once you get used to this, you can start to maintain chronically high levels of stress that start to just become normal. The other real problem is that research says that just early hours of the morning, just before we get up, between 4 and 7 roughly, the natural stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline and noradrenaline, are at their peak. The guess is that is normal, so that when you wake up, if we wake up in the wild, we wake up alert, so we can tell what's going on around us immediately and we're ready for action. But of course that often means, if you've been chronically stressed, got used to stress, that you wake up in a state of arousal and start the day off from there. So that each day seems to become a perpetuation of stress. If you combine that with going to bed and being stressed, then you probably won't sleep well, you don't get rested sleep, and then you can get into real trouble. So anxiety states are something that are very common, something you can get rid of, and something you need to address, because you really don't want to feel this way all the time, and there are good ways to get rid of this.